You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Welcome, fellow patriots. Get ready for an hour of unabashedly pro-American, pro-conservative, and pro-biblical principles. This is the Blake Johnson Program.
Well, hello, America. Welcome to it. This is the Blake Johnson Program and the Lanterns Radio Network. Thanks for joining us today. Big show for you today. We've got a lot of really important things to talk about, but let's go ahead and jump right into it on what I think is the most important story of the day, and that is what took place earlier today in Jerusalem, and that was the official opening of the U.S. Embassy in the true capital of Israel, Jerusalem. This took place earlier today. Donald Trump, the president, he sent one of his advisors, Jared Kushner, in his place to give his thoughts on the event. And a lot was said by him, by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and others, all revolving around this one main message of unity, of freedom, and the promotion of liberty in Israel, and the recognition that America stands with its allies. This, I think, is extremely important, because for so long, we have refused to even acknowledge the capital of Israel being Jerusalem. We've always just given it up, let the terrorists, let those who hate Israel claim that it's, Tel Aviv, where it used to be, or claim that it is, wherever they want it to be. But they don't even want to acknowledge Jerusalem, because to them that's false land. That's not theirs. And to do so would be to acknowledge that Israel has a right to exist. And many of these countries in the Middle East do not want Israel to exist. What I find fascinating, too, is amidst all this, during this event, you have protesters, Hamas protesters, Palestinian protesters, trying to breach the borders of Israel and crash this dedication ceremony, this opening ceremony of the embassy. And I was looking online, and of course, many of the outlets, in fact, all the ones that I saw just on the front page, if you do a quick Google search, Jerusalem protests, were all slanted against Israel, trying to point out that Israel is the bad guy. It's all slanted. It's all biased. Chicago Tribune, the New York Times, everyone on the left just does not like Israel. And of course they won't tell you the whole story. So leading up to this event, Hamas and the Palestinians said that they were going to try to crash this event because they're outraged, because they don't believe that Israel has a right to exist. They don't believe they have the right to do this. And they don't believe that we, the United States, have a right to put our embassy wherever the heck we want it to be. They hate this because they hate Israel. They hate the Jewish people. So they said that they are going to crash this event. One of the leaders of Hamas said, "Why does it matter if we cross over their borders and break into their land?" I think it matters a good deal. And I think you would believe it would matter if Israel did it to you. In fact, just the fact that they are defending themselves, they're getting so much heat. Israel is getting so much heat by the mainstream media because they're just simply defending their borders. But you're not going to hear that if you listen to left-wing media. You're not going to hear that at all. So dozens have been killed by the Israeli Missiles and Defense Force. And the way I see it, it's justified because, again, they have been trying to break into their land, and they've been trying to do that for a long time. This isn't like the first time that Hamas, that the Palestinians, have tried to launch missiles, have tried to break into the Israeli land and terrorize them. It's the whole point of the IDF. I mean, look, Israel just launched missiles, I believe it was into Syria. They launched missiles at their enemies just a couple of months ago because they were being attacked, because they were being threatened, as they always are. And this notion that Palestinians just want peace, Hamas just wants peace. No, Hamas is a terrorist organization. It's a terrorist group. They don't want peace. They want death. They want destruction. So all of this is going on. And I think today is a very important day. I really do. It's important because we have to recognize what's going on. We have to recognize the spin that's coming from the media. We have to distance ourselves from that spin and see the entire picture of what's going on. Especially as Christians, we have to understand that we've got to stand with Israel and the Israeli people. We've got to stand with the Jewish people. That doesn't mean that everything they do is perfect. That doesn't mean they're a perfect people. But it does mean that God has called them to a specific purpose, and we have to honor that. We have to respect that. We have to defend them, because if we don't defend them, God will remember that. It's also important because you have the left, the media, which in many cases is all in the same, and many of the never-Trumpers on the right who aren't even saying anything about today's events that took place. They're not even acknowledging any of it because President Trump is involved, and they hate the president. Make no mistake, Donald Trump has done more for Israel than most of the people who've served as president of the United States. Most of them. Obviously, there are exceptions. But he has done so much for the nation of Israel. And he's not getting the credit for it by a good chunk of the elite. A good chunk of those who... Look, I didn't vote for Trump, but that doesn't mean that I dug my heels in and said, you know what? I'm not even going to say anything positive about Donald Trump. Even if he does something that's good, I'm not going to acknowledge it because I can't stand him. To me, I think that's ridiculous for somebody to do that. I mean, look, I just said on my show, like what, the last episode and the episode before that, my critiques of this president. I don't like him as a person. I would much rather have somebody else as president. But when he does something right, when he does something that's good, I'll point that out. And this is one of those times. We've had presidents that others would consider great presidents or better presidents, and they didn't do this. They didn't have the guts to stand up and go ahead and say, you know what, I don't care what the rest of the world says. I'm going to put the embassy in Jerusalem. None of them did that. Bush didn't do it. Reagan didn't do it. Obama certainly didn't do it. Obama, I'm convinced that Obama didn't like Israel, doesn't like Israel, and doesn't like Netanyahu. But that's a whole nother discussion. But today is a day that we should be celebrating. We should be celebrating that we finally have a president who is willing to stand with the Jewish people and stand when he may be standing alone. Now, obviously, he's not alone. We stand with him. Many others do stand with him. But he's being trashed. He's being torn apart. And keep in mind, too, this after the president also takes us officially out of the Iran deal, which I think is a big, big deal. The Iran deal, guys, this was one of, and I completely agree with the president, what he said during the campaign, this was one of the worst deals ever signed by an American president, ever. And it's true. The Iran deal was a disaster. It gave billions of dollars to Iran. It put us at a disadvantage to keep them in check, to make sure that they didn't further their nuclear weapons program. It further delayed people to be able to go over and inspect and make sure that they weren't developing a nuclear weapon. We had to give them notice that we were coming over, and we had to give them pretty advanced notice, to make sure they had time to hide all of their blueprints and specs and everything like that. So we had to do all that. And also, we had to put up with the fact that they keep chanting death to America. They've been chanting that for many years. They've also been chanting death to Israel. But, oh no. Getting into this Iran deal, that's definitely in our best interest. It's also in our best interest to not really get anything back from it. And right after the president pulled us out of the deal, Iranian government leaders got up in front of their government and burned the American flag and started chanting death to America. Oh, what moderates they are. What moderates. Immediately after that. And President Trump is getting the blame for that. It's his fault that the Iranians are doing what they've always done, and that's chant for our death, and that's say now they're going to really push forward with their nuclear weapons deal. That's our fault that they're doing that? They've always been doing that. Always. Even before this deal. But before this deal took place, we actually were limiting their access because of sanctions, because we were really hitting them hard. I mean, look, just do the research. We were hitting their economy hard with sanctions. The prices of food, the price of all the necessities you would need were going up dramatically. It was making it very hard to live there. And we were doing that because of what Iran has always done. And that has been to continue to threaten the safety of the Western world and, quite frankly, the entire world. Because they are religious zealots. It's not just a political thing with them. They want to force a radical agenda down everybody's throats. They want to push radical Islam all over the world. And if you don't submit, you will die. That's why they hate us. That's why they hate Jerusalem. That's why they hate Israel. Is because we promote religious freedom and they don't. And we also believe in giving equal opportunities to women, to gays, to minorities, to non-Christians. Iran doesn't. We continue to give them money, even though they torture and slaughter their own people. And we're the bad guy for pulling out of this. I don't think so. We're going to take a break and come right back on the Blake Johnson program. We've got so much more to talk about. I can't wait to get into all of it, so stay tuned. Well, welcome back. Hope you've enjoyed the show so far. We're going to try to lighten things up a little bit. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you had a great week. I definitely did. Definitely did. I spent pretty much all weekend just having a great time. Saturday, I went to see my wonderful girlfriend who, by the way, likes to listen to this show every week, so hello, Bethany. But no, I got to see her, and it was her birthday. It was her birthday, technically it was yesterday. Well, not technically, it was her birthday yesterday, but got to spend a good time with her Saturday. They had a bit of a birthday party for her, and I got to give her her birthday present, which she really liked. I have to say it's fun to spoil the special someone in your life. It really is, especially when you see their face light up and them really smile and everything. It's just pretty priceless. So that was good. And Sunday, I finally took my brother to go see the new Avengers movie. I'd already seen it a few weeks ago, but wasn't able to take him to see it until yesterday because he wasn't feeling well last weekend, and yeah, it got kind of busy there. But finally went and saw it for the second time. I will say I almost fell asleep, not because of the movie, but because, for one thing, Sunday afternoons I can have the hardest time staying awake at a certain time of day. Typically around 3 or so in the afternoon is when I start to get sleepy on Sundays. And yeah, plus the theater I went to, they have recliners, and oh, so comfortable. It really was. And I also had a milkshake while I was watching the movie, so that didn't help. But I was able to force myself to stay awake and watch it a second time, and I have to tell you that this movie is just really, really good. It's really, really good. And not just as a superhero flick, not just for the typical reasons that you go to watch a superhero movie, but because of the worldview of the movie. And I don't know if I said this before, but it's definitely worth saying. If you haven't seen this yet, this isn't a spoiler, but I think this will be an incentive. It'll give you an even bigger incentive to go watch this movie because of the morals of this film. Basically, Thanos, who's the supervillain, his main goal is to bring about as much death and destruction as possible because he believes in what I see as the progressive liberal dream. It's the progressive liberal agenda at its core. Now, that doesn't mean that all liberals, all progressives, or those who claim to be progressives believe this is the case. But if you go to the heart of that belief system, the roots of it, where it began, where it all leads to, this is where it leads. This vision that Thanos has is to wipe out half of the human race, half of all life, in order to make it a better world. He wants to get rid of all the degenerates. He wants to cleanse the world of its filth in order to make way for a better tomorrow, make way for a better world and better races. Now, if that doesn't sound like Nazism, if that doesn't sound like Margaret Sanger and the origins of Planned Parenthood, I don't know what does. I really don't know what does. And to me, one of the big reasons I love this movie is there's such a stark contrast. Wow, I just realized I used a pun there because of Iron Man. There's such a stark contrast between good and evil. And I won't tell you what happens, but to me, that alone is a good reason to go see this film. And unlike the DC movies, this movie actually has a plot. Actually has something that you can feel good about. Now, for the exception of obviously Wonder Woman and the Dark Knight trilogy, there are a couple exceptions. But by and large, Marvel movies have done a far superior job with storytelling, with character development, with action, with just being able to make a good, decent film. And they rake in the money, and they have the money, and they have the success to prove it. I mean, I saw over the weekend, it's already made over $1.6 billion worldwide. $1.6 billion. And I think between 5 and 600 million domestically. So that is incredible. I think they're saying it'll either just beat or just get under what The Force Awakens did after its runtime ended in theaters, the Star Wars movie. So that's impressive. That really is. And it just goes to show that if they continue down this path, they're going to keep making the money. So I think that's really cool. Yeah, so this story, I've got to tell you about this. This story kind of made me laugh. So in London, the great arbiter of freedom and capitalism, London, yes, that place. The mayor, Sadiq Khan, he's decided to crack down on something. He's found a problem, and he's also found a solution to that problem. And, oh my goodness, it is, well, quite frankly, it's inspiring. It really is. This mayor, he knows where to stick his priorities. Right up his rectum. I mean, anyway, so the London mayor, he decided to crack down on the wave of violence that's plaguing London. And you know and I know the stories of violence from radical Islamic terrorists, those who oppose real freedom. And he decided the solution to this is to crack down on what? What would you think would be something to crack down on? Maybe immigration? Maybe make it more strict? Maybe crack down on the system that allows people to come into your country and make sure that the right people are? Maybe it's to strengthen the police force? I mean, what would you think it would be? Well, you would be wrong if you said any of those things. Obviously, the answer is eating. Yes, eating. So on Thursday, Khan announced that he was proposing a ban on junk food advertising posted on the entire Transport for London network. He responded to the pervasive wave of knife attacks plaguing the city, and he denounced that the city was creating a violent crime task force of 120 officers tasked with rooting out the knife-wielding individuals in public spaces. Roughly $50 million would be given to the Metropolitan Police Department to arm officers against knife attacks. Now, Khan is addressing the dangers of junk food, prompting those fed up with Khan's refusal to address more serious problems to respond on Twitter. And you can look at some of that on Daily Wire. Someone said, "Can someone explain to me what is the point of this man? Yeah, that's a good one. So, I like this one. Maybe it's all the fried chicken that's causing the stabbing epidemic. Well, I think you really nailed that one down. We understand now what the real problem is. It's that fried chicken. It's all that terrible British food that is causing people to become restless and violent. That's probably what it is. It actually might be some of what it is. I don't know. It's. I'm starting to wonder if Khan is, first of all, it's an appropriate name. I mean, yeah, it's spelled differently, but it sounds the same, so therefore it is. But Khan is, I wonder if he's speaking with former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, because I'm seeing some similar patterns with the crackdown on junk food and salt, and wonder if he's going after soda. That's the real enemy right there. Soda or pop. I call it both. Just don't call it Coke. Please don't call it Coke. My girlfriend will appreciate that reference. But don't call it that. But you've got to crack down on the serious threats, which is carbonated water, it's caffeine, it's those evil stimulants. That's what they are. Yes. So, yeah, I'm glad that I don't live there. I really am. And speaking of London, speaking of England, speaking of pomp and circumstance, why is everybody just so focused on this royal wedding? I just don't understand. And I'll admit, I don't remember the names of the people getting married. Is it Prince William, maybe? I don't know. And I don't care. Those of you who are offended that I don't know or got the name wrong, I don't care. And that's the whole point. Why do we care? I just don't. I've never understood why we focus so much on weddings of other people we don't know. I mean, we focus so much on Hollywood relationships, who's with who, and who's no longer with who this and who that. And I'm just sitting here asking, who cares? I mean, I hope they have a great life. Hope they have a great marriage. I really do. I hope everybody has a great marriage. I'm all for great marriages. I think marriage is a great thing. Have at it and do the best you can do. And hopefully it's a godly marriage. That being said, I don't care. I don't think it should be a national news story day in and day out. You know, I don't mind people saying anything about it, but to continue to talk about it over and over and over again, I think is just a bit much. Especially when there's far more important things to be talking about that's happening in this country. So, there you go. And we will talk about some of those things when we come back on the Blake Johnson program. So please, don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Blake Johnson program and the Lanterns Radio Network, where we are here to fix the machine. If you haven't already, go ahead and give my Facebook page a like. It's the Blake Johnson program on Facebook. You can also follow me on Twitter, I should say. If I want to be more accurate with my words. You can follow me on Twitter at Libertyville93 and spread the show through Spreaker, Soundcloud, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you can listen to podcasts. You can find it on there through the Lanterns Radio Network. Oftentimes, if you go to, if you try to use iTunes or SoundCloud or something, and you just type in the Blake Johnson program, it may not come up. So, in order to find it, search for the Lanterns Radio Network, and then you will find my show on there through that. It's confusing, I know, but that's just how it is. Anyway, spread the show and share it with a friend. Tell them about it. Hopefully get some more people listening to this broadcast, maybe, so I can sleep better at night. Real quick, this is just random. I have these moments in my life where I just like to say something random, and this, I think, will do you a service, because I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to do something good for you and steer you away from something that I think is, I think is nasty. It's disgusting. So, I tried this, I'm a huge fan of Oreos. I love Oreos. And people who've been around much longer than me will probably be quick to remind me that Oreos has essentially changed their recipe, in that it's more sugary now, and there's less chocolate in the actual chocolate cookie. Fair point, but I still like it, because I like sugar. But yes, I love Oreos, and I think they're very tasty. And I've had most of the current flavors that you can have. I've had double stuff. I've had the golden Oreos. I've had mint Oreos, chocolate Oreos, birthday cake Oreos, peanut butter Oreos, red velvet. I mean, I've had a ton of different kinds of Oreos. But there was one that I had over the weekend that I thought was quite disappointing, and I was really hoping it would turn out better. They released a new flavor called Cherry Coke flavored Oreos, and it's exactly what you think it is. It's a red and white Oreo cream, and it's supposed to taste like Cherry Coke. And they put oh my gosh, how can I forget this? They put, the rocks that you can find in candy, the pop rocks, whatever you call them. That may actually be the name of it. But they put those in there too, to give it the feel of drinking pop, and how there's this pop feel or sound that goes on in your mouth when you're drinking it. I tried it, and I couldn't make it. I brought 3 of them with me to eat as a snack at work, and I barely made it past the second one. Because in my mind, if I can make it past the second one, sometimes it just takes me a bit longer to get used to the taste, to get used to the feel of it. But after the second one, and I still don't like it, I'm done. And that's where I was. And the taste just didn't work for me. It didn't work. And I will concede, probably is because it's just too much sweet. If it actually tasted like, if there were more chocolate flavors in it, I might have liked it a little bit more. But because there's already a lot of sugar in it, it didn't help. Plus, another big reason I didn't like it was because of the texture. It's just, it didn't feel like that Oreo cream feels when you're tasting it. It just felt, yeah. And so, yeah, it's a new flavor. If you ever decide to try it, know you've been warned. Okay, so I'm about to address a story that I've been conflicted with if I even should talk about it, but I feel it's necessary. And the reason I feel it's necessary is because I feel like some of the reaction to this has been overblown. On the other hand, some of the reaction has not been harsh enough. So, this all comes from a joke that White House aide Kelly Sadler made about John McCain, Senator John McCain from Arizona, who, you may remember, he ran for president in 2008 against Barack Obama, and he has been suffering from brain cancer for a while now, and he's dying from it. Not sure how much longer he has left, but it's really not looking good. So, a White House aide made a joke about John McCain, and this all started when McCain came out, I believe it was last week, and opposed a nominee to the CIA. President Trump nominated Gina Haspel to the CIA, and McCain came out pretty quickly and urged the Senate to reject Gina Haspel. And the reason that he is opposed to her is because her views, at least her past views, on waterboarding. And first, let me just tell you a little bit about Gina Haspel. She served more than 30 years undercover and in the shadows for the CIA, and this is now where she's being nominated to head up. And she served her country for a long time. She also served in the Air Force. She says, "I know the CIA like the back of my hand. I know them, I know the threats we face, and I know what we need to be successful in our mission." So she's got quite a bit of experience. I think she's more than qualified to head up the CIA. But again, McCain really does not like her views on torture. More specifically on waterboarding. That's the popular one that people like to claim is torture, but it's really not. I mean, waterboarding we do to our own troops. We waterboard our own troops to train them, to let them understand. So if we're willing to do it to our own troops, how is it torture? And how can you on the one hand, just from a pure consistencies perspective, rail against it when we're doing it to the enemy, but say virtually nothing about it when it comes to the fact that we do it to our own troops and they're okay? They're not dead, surprisingly. So, he made the statement after Haspel testified in her confirmation hearing on Capitol Hill on Wednesday. McCain said that Haspel had a chance to explain her involvement in the so-called enhanced interrogation program during the Bush administration and account for the mistakes the country made in torturing detainees held after the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. Haspel vowed not to restart any enhanced interrogation program and said she would resist an order from the president to waterboard any detainees. Haspel repeatedly said that she believes in a strict moral standard. But this wasn't good enough for McCain, who, for those who aren't aware, he was a prisoner of war during the Vietnam War at the Hanoi Hilton, where he spent years in solitary confinement and was subject to torture and abuse. He returned after 5.5 years with white hair, and the injuries that he sustained there would affect him for the rest of his life. So, yes, he does have experience with being tortured, and he was tortured. And here's the thing. So I'll get into the joke in just a moment. But when it comes to this, my view on torture is pretty simple. I think, as long as it's not inhumane, we should be torturing the enemy. If there is information that we can get from them, and there's no other way to get it, I am fully supportive of torture. Now, when people hear the word torture, they think it is, the worst imaginable, inhumane thing possible. Well, it is if that's the level of torture you do. If we're talking about what the enemy does to us, I would agree with that. But the United States has a strict moral code. We have a line that we don't cross, and we didn't cross, I believe, in my opinion. And I think that's perfectly fine. Like I said, I don't believe waterboarding is torture. I think it is perfectly appropriate, and it has worked, quite frankly. It has worked. Related to the 9/11 terrorist attacks, getting information about Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, we have used waterboarding, and according to other government leaders during the Bush administration, those who served in the administration, they will tell you these things worked. Many of the generals will tell you these tactics worked. Yes, others will say it didn't, but from my perspective, the way I see it, if you have to get really important information, and there's no other way to get it, if you've tried all other avenues, and sometimes you don't have the chance, you don't have the time to try all other avenues. Sometimes it's life or death. I support this kind of treatment. I do. Because at some point, you have to put the lives of our country first. And that should be the number one goal, the safety and security of the American people. And if that safety is threatened by the information somebody has that they aren't willing to give up through any other means, sometimes you have to take measures like that. Now again, we still have to have a line. We still have to make sure that we aren't, violating our most sacred moral beliefs. However, I don't believe it is violating those sacred moral beliefs to waterboard, to, do things to protect the American people. But again, obviously, I have my limits. I'm not saying all bets are off. I'm just saying some of these attacks, I think, are pretty ridiculous. So, that happens, and then this is what prompted the joke. So, Kelly Sadler, again, she's a White House aide. She said in response to McCain objecting to this nomination, this wasn't even an official, she didn't even say this out on the record, out in the open. This was a leaked quote. She said, she was reported to have saying, well, he's dying anyway, in response to McCain's opposition. So, who cares what McCain thinks? He's dying anyway, is essentially what the joke is being reported to have said. Now, Sadler has reportedly already apologized to McCain during a phone call. Did she call? I don't know if she called John McCain directly or if she called. No, she called Meghan McCain. Meghan McCain is a commentator on The View, so that already tells you a lot about her credibility, just from being able to do that. But no, she talked to Meghan McCain, the daughter of John McCain, apologized to her. She promised that she would apologize publicly, but has yet to do so, as far as I'm aware. Now, you have many people, and I think rightly so, denouncing what Sadler said and saying what she said was wrong and it was shameful, and it was. I don't care how, quite frankly, as a Christian, I don't care how much you disagree. I don't care how despicable someone's actions. Well, I don't care how wildly you may disagree with someone politically. I don't think that warrants a joke like this. I don't. I think saying something like, well, this person's dying anyway, so who cares? Whether it's a joke or not, I think it's inappropriate. So, yes, I do believe that Sadler should apologize if she indeed said this joke, which it looks like she did. She's not denying it. Then she should apologize publicly. And I do think it is good to... Look, I'll just say it. I do think there is merit to calling out the administration for not being more on top of this. I'm not saying that they have to spend all day about it, but just a quick statement saying this is wrong, I think would suffice. So, yes, I do agree that that was wrong. However, I do want to point out that I've noticed this before, and this isn't necessarily in regards to this particular story. This is my response to this long-held notion that because somebody is sick, because somebody is dying, we can't criticize them. Because somebody is dying, we can't point out that they're a jerk, that they have some pretty disgusting policies, that they, in some cases, are a douche. And I'm not saying that I think John McCain is a douche, but many of his behaviors, many of the things that he's said and done are pretty despicable, are pretty ridiculous. The John McCain, look, I respect the man's war record. I respect that he really sacrificed so much for his country, that he was willing to be tortured for several years and come back scarred. That takes a level of bravery that I don't know that I would have. So when it comes to that, I highly respect John McCain, and he should be respected by everyone. However, when it comes to his political record, when it comes to the way that he acts as a person towards other people, that's a different story. That we have to point out when he's wrong. One of the things that has been revealed recently in his upcoming book, John McCain's upcoming book, is that John McCain was the guy who handed over that Christopher Steele dossier about Trump and his connections to the Russians. It was all phony, guys. It was all fake. It was all lies. But John McCain took that dossier and gave it to James Comey. He's the one that turned over the height of fake news to James Comey because he felt it was his duty. And what was the other thing that he did recently? He refused to invite Trump to something. I can't remember what it was. Might have been his funeral, saying that he would never invite him to his funeral. But he's done several things that, look, like I've said, I've got issues with Donald Trump as well, but that doesn't warrant rewarding bad behavior with more bad behavior. So, John McCain, you are a jerk. You are a big jerk. And, you're the one that owes the president an apology, I think. You owe the American people an apology for the way that you've conducted yourself over your long, long tenure as a senator. You and your big government policies that have, quite frankly, threatened the liberty of this country. You and your willingness to cave on really important issues. And you and your willingness to flip-flop and to do everything you can for the party in regards to the Republican Party, but not do very much when it comes to advancing the cause of liberty and the conservative ideals. You should be ashamed of yourself. You really should. And I'm sorry, but when it comes to the comments like that, of course I will not defend that, and of course I will obviously say that's wrong. But on the other hand, I will also say that you, Senator, are wrong in many aspects of the way that you conduct yourself. So, I'm not saying that McCain is doing this. I'm saying others are doing it for him. Stop using somebody's health to gain political points. Just because you're sick, just because you're dying, doesn't mean that you are immune to public criticism when you are being a hypocrite. And that's exactly what he's doing. I'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us here on the Blake Johnson program. Happy to have you here today. Before we close out the show, I also want to talk about this story that I don't think is getting enough attention, and it just goes to show that people will use anything they can to get famous and to further their own agenda, regardless of whether it's true or not. And they will absolutely play the victim card even when they're not the victim. So there's this story, there's been this viral video that's gone around on social media lately. I frankly didn't see it, in terms of I didn't see it on my news feed, but apparently this video has gone viral of, well, here, I'll just start from the beginning. On April 30th, police showed up to question Bob Marley's granddaughter, Donisha Prendergast, and 3 other filmmakers who were staying at an Airbnb in Rialto, California. Airbnb, basically, it's a company that rents out living space for like apartments or land or, these really nice houses and things like that. That's a very general description, but that's essentially what they are. So that on April 30th, police received a phone call about these people who were staying at an Airbnb in California. They'd been called by a neighbor who later said that she had no idea that the residence was being rented out as an Airbnb. The police prevented the group from leaving until they could confirm that the owner of the house had allowed them to stay there. Now, there were 2 videos that were posted by, again, Bob Marley's granddaughter, Prendergast. 2 videos that were posted on her Instagram account. And the caption reads, "Be love. So much things to say right now. Got surrounded by the police for being black in a white neighborhood. SMH. I'm sad and irritated to see that fear is still the first place police officers go in their pursuit to serve and protect, to the point that protocol supersedes their ability to have discernment. Many have suffered and died in moments like these. That's a crazy reality check. Give thanks for life and the ability to stand our ground. We are stronger together. Use your voice collectively." In another video, one of the women can be heard saying, "It's a code black," suggesting that race was the only reason behind the police presence. However, and those are the 2 videos that have gone viral. Now, as usual, there are more sides to this story. Police released body cam footage that showed even more of the incident, and here's what it showed. It proves that, according to them, it proves that the police acted responsibly. In the footage, you can see Pendergrast and the other 3 Airbnb guests moving around and even joking with the police. So it seems to be pretty cordial, pretty, laid back. The police also insisted that race did not play a factor in the incident. The neighbor who called the police said that the race of the 4 people did not influence her phone call either. Instead, she said she was alarmed when she saw that the people she did not recognize carrying luggage out of her neighbor's house, especially since there has been a recent rise in crime in the neighborhood. At no time, this is a quote, "At no time during the encounter did our officers use any form of force," interim Rialto Police Chief Mark Kling said during the news briefing. Kling also said that social media can be a real challenge for police departments. It's because of the inaccurate information that is just like lighting a wildfire. Residents who saw the body cam footage seemed to agree. For instance, Rialto resident Harry Bratton told KCAL-TV, a local CBS affiliate, "I think that this video really showed the fact that people are too quick to rush to judgment, not getting all the facts in first." And I don't know if it was this story or it was another one related to, basically related to a story like this, where the mayor, was it the mayor? A black guy said there was no, race did not play a role in this whatsoever. I may have the story wrong, maybe a different story, but again, it's just another story of people using race to justify their own agenda, their own political agenda, and it's them getting attention in this case. I think this was it's just her wanting to get her 15 minutes of fame. That's all she wanted. She just wanted to be famous because she's Bob Marley's granddaughter. And oh my gosh, the police are here. What a perfect opportunity to boost my Instagram followers, to boost my, name recognition. And yeah, I think that's what this is about. We have got to stop with this. This is not going to help us heal the divide. These same people who say that there is a huge divide in this country are the ones, many of which, who are promoting this divide because they want their side to come out on top ahead of everybody else. And if that means bringing everybody else down, well, that's just the price you have to pay. No, that's not the price we have to pay. We've got to be decent, honorable people to each other. That's how we win. All right, that's going to do it for the Blake Johnson program. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will see you back here next Monday. Take care. Have a safe rest of your week, and God bless.